Oh boy, it's more DMC2, Lucia's story. Welcome back to part 2 of Devil May Cry 2, Lucia's story. Today we're going to start trying to get, we can actually be able to get a DT upgrade, and who knows, the plot might actually step into this game and tell us what the hell's going on, because we've just wandered here for no real reason to get this, just to wander out for no real reason. There's no establishing plot. The only opening cutscene is one we got for both of them. That was just there, sort of like a tease in anyway. That doesn't really give us anything. But we've got our first encounter with the goatlings, which are just as much of a joke as you remember them being, as you can tell. Which I can't help but feel is a bit pathetic, because they try and make out that these guys are sort of the bigger bads, and then they just kind of suck. Well, along with everything else, but. Oh, I want to see how high of a grade I could get off the corpse. Oh well. Alright, let's go over here, dodge that. Let's go over here and get our first upgrade. Which we already kind of know what it is. If you read the mission description, you already know we're going to get our wings, so it's going to be the aerial heart. Which, I mean, not that I mind giving away the aerial heart so soon, but it's still kind of like... If you've done one story, you already know what it is in the other one. But there it is, and now we can fly up and get out of here. But unlike in Dante's mission, the mission's only just begun. This isn't the end, so when we fly up there, it will continue. This is just the opening room. Like, I know the missions in DMC 1 and 2, some of them can be really short, but they're not one room short. Don't worry. Thankfully, no DMC game is one room short with a mission. I say that, but watch DMC5 get announced and actually have a one room short mission. Then saying that, I wouldn't mind if it was just a one room, because you can still make it quite long if it's just one room. If you make it like an escape the room scenario, you could have quite a lot of fun with that if they experimented with it and did it right. But I don't know. I won't talk what I'd hope for a future until the game actually, the series actually gets a fucking future. Because it's all well and good doing these subtle, under-the-nose, rumour mill spurring tips and whatnot, but nothing's actually confirmed. And until then, we can just kind of sit around and wait, but... God damn it, it sinks so slow. Is there no way to sink faster? There we go. But don't get me wrong, if it does get announced this year, which might happen this E3, I'm hoping... fucking hoping. I'm hoping. If it does, you know I'll be straight on that to let you guys know. The problem is that Sony's E3 conference, because I'm in the UK, it means it will be airing at 2 AM. So Tuesday the 12th at 2 AM, I'll be up. I'll be watching it. So you're living in the UK, you can feel for me, that you know how bad that is. Or whilst you're watching the US, you know, when Sony's one goes live, I will be watching it with you, but I'll be fucking knackered while I'm at it. And I can see the little fragment from here. I saw that as being launched up. And to be honest, like, if they do return to DMC finally, I wouldn't want it to be... I wouldn't actually really want it to be too different. I just want it to be DMC4, but bigger and finished. Sort of thing. Like, I don't want them to overhaul the gameplay to try and modernise it, because I think that would really hurt it. Like, I felt like it really got the new God of War. Like, the story and RPG stuff's pretty good, but the actual gameplay was terrible compared to how it used to be. I felt. It felt too stiff and poorly executed, and the camera was terrible for it. And I think one of the most stylish series I've ever met, and probably will remain one of the most stylish series on the planet, if it ended up going down the same strict treatment of getting really simplified or modernised, as they like to call it, I think it would be a grim shame, and I think it would really ruin something that could have had a really grand revival. It just needs to be DMC4's gameplay, just either slightly more responsive or slightly faster, or be a bit more experimental while still keeping all the core stuff that made it brilliant. And the levels just need to be more unique. Because as much as I wouldn't mind if they went back to 1 and 3's approach of making it one big environment that you just explore in different ways, I don't know if that's what they would do. I think if they're going to go for bigger, more open environments, they'll try and make it more unique and constantly moving, like in this and 4. But the problem this had is that none of the areas were interesting, and the problem 4 had is that they ran out of time. So the second half of the story is just the first half backwards, which is a shame, because if they found another way around it, they could have 4 could have easily been the best in the series. But unfortunately, due to time constraints and whatnot, the gameplay is the best, but everything else just isn't as good as 3. And after I finish Let's Playing this, I won't immediately dive to 3, because I will want a bit of a call off, because I've done DMC1 then DMC2 back to back. I wouldn't want to dive into DMC3 straight away. As much as I really want to deep down, it won't be an immediate thing. I'll give it a while. What I'll probably do is wait until, now we've talked about it, wait until after E3. Because if DMC5 does get announced for E3, then I'll dive straight on 3 as sort of an excuse to talk about both at the same time. But I should really stop talking about a good game and actually talk about the game I'm playing, which is DMC2. Right, we've got to hit that, so we've got this thing here so we can refill a Devil Trigger, which is nice. In case we fuck it up. Really generous of them to do that. And this doesn't look... This isn't awkward at all. God. Ugh. Alright, what now? Is the roof just going to open up and let us go up? Looks like it. You know, it's weird to think about this game directly continued off DMC1. Like, when you think about, and I don't just mean in the gameplay department and the environments and whatnot, I just mean like, we went from this Resident Evil-esque gothic environment where there was a lot of exploring and adventuring and puzzle solving alongside the combat, with a quirky, cocky protagonist who wasn't too cocky that it became arrogant. It was just a cool, quirky sort of thing. To the very next game be going through urban cities with a much more moodier Dante, but a lot of the gothicness seeming to be kind of missing and abandoned, and a lot of the Resident Evilness kind of just missing from it. It's weird how much it changed from 1 to 2. Like, I get it, they didn't really understand what worked and what didn't, but it's still weird to think about. Especially when you think that 3 was a true sequel to what 1 was, and where it embraces every element 1 was, just does it a lot better. Now we got a Hello, Plutonian, nice to see you. Oh no, okay, so I got my hopes up for nothing. I looked at the trophies before I started Lucia's story, and I noticed that there were 2 bosses that were only Lucia's only. One was Tartarussian. Good to know that Tartarussian is just Plutonian, just under a different fucking name. Good to see how original you was with that, guys. Ugh. Like, come on, just... If you're gonna do the same boss but a different colour, just call it the same fucking name. Don't do this. And it doesn't even have the little lasers in the room, so it's kind of pathetic. Whoa! I doubt it, but I want to see if I can get the S rank until the end of the fight. I know I'm going to whiff it and get like snapped tapped like right at the very fucking end, knowing my luck. Like that, fuckers! Ugh, just finish it. I hope it still gives me a plentiful amount of red ores for maintaining an S rank for that long though. I mean, come on, I'll work for that. But to be fair, I've got more comfortable with Lucia's gameplay a lot quicker than I did with Dante's, and I get because it's a similar kettle of fish. Yeah, the jumping attack I'm a bit off with. Like, I think it's down to whether you're moving in the air or not. Like, because the lock-on I don't think seemed to make a difference. I think if you're actually moving physically in the air when you do it, then it will do an attack when you press it. But if you're not moving, then she'll just slam down. She'll just do a heel drop or whatever they call it. Alright, is there anything here before we leave? Oh, there's a big red orb there. Let's get that quickly. Don't do that little hop and skip, thank you. Well, shit. That B? A! Awesome! I could do with more A's. Alright, I'll keep that in mind as a possible S rank to do off screen in my own time then. Neat.
Where's Mathieu? Mathieu? Mathieu?
Good grief. They really made a big mess, didn't they? It sure took him a while to find this place. Oh, you have arrived, son of Sparta.
You knew him?
Oh, yes. We are the guardians of this land, Vidumali. Our clan once fought against the demons with Sparta, son of Sparta. We must ask this favor of you. You see, there's a man who's transformed our land into a demon's paradise. His name is Arius. And although he is the president of an international public corporation, he uses the demon power. Please, deal with Arius and his master for us.
Looks like it's your lucky day.
Wonderful! I am very pleased. It leads to a harbor. If you are successful, I will tell you a story about your father, son of Sparta. Did you obtain the other arcanas, my dear? Here is the bastone. Now we have only one piece remaining. I believe that it is in the ruin.
I know.
Alright, so that explains how the player is supposed to already know about the arcanas in Dante's story. One problem with that. Dante left before it was brought up. So it still doesn't explain how Dante knew about the arcanas, because there's nothing in Dante's story that justifies him just knowing what it is when push comes to shove. His objective was just to go deal with Arius. That was what he was given. Because, and the only reason I make a specific point about that is because someone tried to correct me on it and say, oh no, Dante does find out about it. They mention it in Lucia's story. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. No, Dante fucking left. And then they told Lucia. The Arcana thing, Dante never finds out about it. There's nothing in Dante's story that I've seen so far that justifies him knowing about the Arcanas. His objective is solely to go deal with Arius, not to collect the Arcanas, which he ends up doing through his story, and then acting like that was it, the whole plan the whole time. This plot, coincidentally, has giant fucking holes in it. Who would have thought? Ugh. You know, there's a very good reason why every Devil May Cry game based after this isn't based after 2, it's based before it. Because 3 is a prequel, it's based earliest in the series, it's based before 1. And 4, they base it just after 1, but still before 2. And I'm pretty sure that's just because Captain wants to pretend 2 never existed as much as possible, because even they know it was kind of shit. Alright, I had to check. I knew there was a fragment there in Dante's story. You never knew. There could have been one with Lucia's. That's the other thing. They do a DMC5 would they bring back Lucia just because it's like this long forgotten character and it's an excuse for a new gameplay style? Personally, like, I'd like to see her explore her kind of character again, of her being related or part of the main villain, and how she handles it, because it could be an interesting plot if done properly. But this didn't, and I say that because I hope you guys have already watched Dante's story, otherwise I've just majorly spoiled this really bare-bone pathetic plot that she is related to Arius. She doesn't know it yet, but in Dante's story you find out. And in this you're going to find out anyway, I can imagine, because she's the one that tells him in the first place. I like how to justify it having more health, they literally just made it bigger. Oh, here come the fucking everyone's favourite, the pizza cutters! Where'd the fuck they go? I don't think I killed the other one. They just... alright. I wonder if Orangarala is... oh no, he's still gone. The train's already crushed, so... I'm guessing in the plot Dante's already been here? Dante got it before us? Is what he's trying to say? What's over here? Kiyamore. Long range. Let me guess, it did less damage. I'll just stick with the standard ones. Just because I don't trust it, I'll stick with the standard ones. I know it might work different, but I know in Dante's story the longer blade did less damage and the shorter blade did more damage. And I'd rather wait and then get the shorter blades later on that will hit like a truck. What's in here then? Is that a fucking blue orb? Yeah, it is, for goodness sake. It's like DMC1 gave you a full blue orb twice in the game. One of them was for finding the last secret mission of the game, and it was a very obscure secret mission that you had no real reason to know about unless you followed a guide or interacted with everything. So it made sense as like a one final reward, here's a full orb. The other one, yeah, that was I think just a slight restraint on time that they just give them to you after Griffin. Like after you do the final fight with Griffin, they just kind of give it to you. And I could kind of like pretend in my head it's a reward for beating the boss, but it's not like it's the hardest boss. They gave it to you for defeating Nilo Angelo 3, I could be a bit more understanding, because that's a harder boss that you've been fighting for a longer period throughout the game, but after Griffin, it just seemed like trapped for time. But this, I can't even remember how many gave me Dante. I think it was like 4 or 5 in the end. It just seems so stupid. Like, just space them out. Or make it so you get 12 fragments from secret missions instead of just 10. Like, it can't be that hard to space them out, can it? Like 3 and 4, both of them have perfected the system. They don't have this problem at all when we get to those. And I say those and not that, because even though I've already done 4, there is a slight contemplation to go back to it and do the actual main story and not just Virgil made Virgil edition. As much as I enjoyed it and would happily go through it again as Virgil, I think I should do it justice and actually do the main plot. Which means I'd have to do a bit of practice because I'm not that good at Nero. And I'm not particularly brilliant as Dante, but I'm good enough to get the game done. And that's what counts. Don't worry, it says. I'm curious to see what rankings they come up with for DMC5. I know I've mentioned it before, but what other words have they not used? Like, they could get away with using some from the reboot because it's the reboot, it's not the main series. So they could reuse them and technically claim they're new if they wanted to. Like, I wouldn't mind anarchic. Or like sadistic, or something like that. Or sensational. I think people would be... oh no, I think sensational's already been used, now I think about it. I don't know. But yeah, like, they could have some fun with it. But it's just trying to think of a word that doesn't sound dumb, that they haven't used before. Like if they use, like, for C, Kraken, I don't think people would be very satisfied about it, because it's not like crazy or chaotic or anything like that. They would be like Kraken, and people are like, what the fuck? But then we've had Bravo before, and Bravo seemed a bit like, alright. If they really wanted to get quite edgy, they could have A as apocalyptic or something like that. The only one I think they could get away with staying is that the ultimate one, the Triple S, still needs to be something resembling style or the word stylish. Like, I think that's a bit of a tradition at this point, because DMC 1, 3, and 4 use stylish in their name. Or they could make it a giant homage to like all of them and make them like different, each letter like a different word from one of the other games. Like they could make it go from dull to cruel to bingo, no, to atomic, to stylish sort of thing, or to showtime and then stylish. Or you get the idea. They could make it like a giant reference across the board, which I wouldn't mind. Like after waiting a decade, I wouldn't mind it if it paid a lot of respects and made it really fan servicey to the original. Like I honestly wouldn't mind if they handled DMC5 the way Metal Gear Solid 4 was handled, as in make it something that if you're an outsider it's not necessarily the best thing ever, but if you've been a fan of the series it's literally the greatest thing ever. Even though I still prefer MGS3, I really loved that MGS4 was so caught up in its own fan service and cocky embrace of its own love that it just ran with it and made this brilliant, legendary game. Even if it had a few retcons and issues with it, it was still such a stupidly fun game if you were a fan of the series up until that point. To get this one badass outing with all your characters that you've grown to love over the past few years. If they did that with DMC5, I'd be in heaven. I'd love it. But we don't know. Like, I have every faith in Hideki Itsuno. I don't believe he'll fuck it up. I'm just, I don't know. We don't know until it gets announced, until things are shown off about it, and until we can see the bigger picture of it. There's no way of knowing. I believe this part's going to end up just being the big what if DMC5 part, because there's so much. And so I'll do a proper video on it if it gets announced, like explaining everything I'd want and everything that I personally think it should do. Like personally, as much as I want it based after 2, to sort of see what happens after Dante goes to hell, I wouldn't mind if they did another one before 2, made it based after 4. The only thing that I'd like is to see them explore Nero's relation to Virgil more, because they heavily imply and all but confirm that Virgil is Nero's father. Well, in fact, I say that outside of the game, Nero's voice actor Johnny Young Bosch straight up confirmed it and went, yeah, what did you think? It was kind of obvious. It's just that they never say it directly in the game, but it is canon, it is that way. And I'd definitely be interested to see that be explored. I'd like to see Dante just be more Dante. Just to hear Ruben Langdon just be him at his best. If they bring back all the like DMC3 onwards cast again, I'd be very happy. And like I'd like to think after this past decade, Capcom and Hideki Itsuno, well particularly Hideki Itsuno, are extremely aware of exactly what the fans want and what they really don't want. Because you can kind of tell a DMC fan a mile away when God of War came out. They're like, yeah, it's alright, but it's better not end up being what DMC is. Like, they were really fucking crystal clear about it. Don't make this DMC. Or like when Kamir, the guy who made the original DMC, said that they might end up westernizing or modernizing Devil May Cry, and everyone made it very clear, like, please don't. What the fuck happened there? Like, Capcom, it's not like Capcom are unaware of it. They know exactly what we want. They have to. And so if they end up not delivering, oof, there might be some price to pay. after a decade if they disappoint. But I've also seen the argument of it's like the Half-Life 3 thing again, where if Half-Life 3 was ever actually announced, the hype and expectations for it would be impossible to ever reach, and the game would always be disappointing even if it was really good. But I personally don't think that's the thing, because Half-Life 3, I felt that a lot of the things people wanted for things to wrap up seemed a little too much like impossible, but all the things that people want for DMC5 which is just more of what we've already got, just in a bigger, better levels. That's not that ambitious of a wish, I don't think. I think that's a very capable thing to make a literal masterpiece, to make like a true legendary game. Because Devil May Cry still has the ability to easily stand head and shoulders above the rest of the series. Like, with little effort. They just need better levels and to actually, you know, get a game. Because when you look at how Dante plays in 4, watch any videos of like any good Dante player on it, or any tutorial videos on it, things like that. Dante is the most diverse and capable hack and slash character there's ever been. The amount of shit he can do, and the amount of shit you can do on top of it that the game just doesn't really tell you about, is ludicrous. He's an unstoppable machine if you can learn him, and I love it. Yeah, Bayonetta was kind of good, but Bayonetta still had showed some of the flimsy and over smoothness, but I liked the technical power that there was in Devil May Cry, that you could just crack on and do 1,000,001 things, have 5 different gameplay styles to mess with, 3 different guns, one of them having their own like growth meter on it, so the more you use it, the more powerful it comes, 3 different swords, with one of them being entirely a prop based weapon of setting up enemies for later downfalls, one of the styles actually having its own meter as well that you can build up for a devastating attack if you use it right. And that's ignoring the air game that Dante could use, ignoring that you could swap all of this on the fly with no punishment. Like, it was mad. It was amazing. It was just a shame that the only levels Dante got was Nero's backwards. It was like, that if they'd given like Dante all his fresh own levels and like expanded the story a bit more and like really put it all together, DMC4 could have been fucking amazing. Like, it is amazing, I'll never take that away from it, but like, it could have been proper game of the decade material if it was like the story was more fleshed out and the levels were better done, instead of the whole rehash thing and repeat stuff that we had going on. And don't get me wrong, what that special edition adds is pretty badass as well, like the extra characters and whatnot. But in hindsight, I think a lot of people would have preferred if they'd just gone and expanded the levels, then add 3 new characters. Like, adding Virgil's pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but Lady and Trish feel a little bit too much of an afterthought, and they're not as fleshed out as... They're definitely not as fleshed out Nero and Dante, and I would say they're not as fleshed out as Virgil, but Virgil's already got his own problems of being OP as shit in DMC4. As much as I enjoy playing as him, I won't take that away from him. If they bring him back in 5, they need to tone him down a lot. Either that, or make the enemies and bosses and counters in this thing, in his story, compensate for it. Which I wouldn't mind either, but it might end up becoming like one of those things that it jumps from really easy to ridiculously hard, because they expect you to master Virgil because he's an easier character. They expect you to know him perfectly off the bat. So finding a balance of that, there might be a thing. I think all they really need to do is nerf Judgment Cut End. I think that's their main problem. They need to nerf Judgment Cut End. They need to slightly nerf the motivation meter, like make it so the difference in power and range per level isn't as great. Like, still make it a thing, definitely, but don't make it so when you reach level 3, your sword has like invisibly double the length of what it was, because it's just, it becomes ridiculous. You don't have to be brilliant at the game to be good and as Virgil. You have to be pretty good at the game, I'd say, to get all the S ranks and beat on DMD, but as a casual player, Virgil is kind of makes the game a joke in a lot of ways, and I'm not gonna lie and take that away from it. It's just how it is. But I've rambled enough for now. We just took down Joe Cartigum again, and it wasn't too bad of a fight. I got beat around a little bit, but it was still pretty easy. And I'm going to wrap this up for part. So next time on Devil May Cry 2, we'll progress on with Lucia's story to try and find the next arcanas. But until then, you guys take care now.